Well, welcome everyone. This is Awkward Conversations. Now, if you have watched other sessions, other videos in this series, you may notice that I don't have my normal partner in crime here with me. As we have these conversations, we have fun talking about things that are awkward. You know, things that are awkward between Saundra and I, things that are awkward in our culture, awkward among us as Christians. Well, today it's just me. I don't have my wife here with me today because we chose a topic, and we decided it would be fun for you to hear my viewpoint on this topic. And then in the next video, you will hear Saundra's view on the same topic. So that's what we're doing here. So this is different. We're not sure how it'll play out or how it'll look, but we're really glad you're with us. We're finding that people are loving the awkward conversations. We are finding value in it as well, and this is just a joy. So as we venture in today, it's going to feel a little different, look a little different, but thanks for being with me. Really glad to be here, and let me just kind of dive in. I do have some notes with me today because this is a little different. I wanted to have a few of my own thoughts in front of me. So I chose a title for today that's actually not even a real word, but I was just contemplating what we're talking about is marriage and being in a marriage relationship for the long haul. And so that's the topic, that long haul piece. And you know, Saundra and I have been married 36 years, so we feel like we have an ability and a little bit of clout to speak to this issue. And so I'm going to dive in. The title that I've chosen is Sticktuity. Now, the funny thing is, I was thinking about this morning because I love words. And I love the meaning behind words. And I was thinking, how do you say this? Because stick-to-itiveness is a word, but that's not a fun title. So I was thinking stick-to-ity, but I looked it up. You'll find it on the internet. You'll find it on Google because some other people have thought of this word too, so I'm not alone. But it really is kind of funny that stick-to-ity. Not a real word, but I'm going to use it today anyway for my title. So as we dive in, there's a couple of things that I was thinking about. You know, first of all, if you're a student of the word at all, you very well may have heard a few of these scriptures, and I'm not going to dive into them deeply, but I like the concepts that are being brought out here, and so I kind of want to venture in a little bit here to talk about longevity in a marriage relationship. First of all, in Proverbs 18 is a fascinating chapter. And I'm going to start in verse 22, where it says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing." And, obviously, what a great thought, right? He who finds a wife finds a good thing. The concept, I think, of marriage, can I say it this way? That this may show my age, but, the concept of marriage is hitching your wagon to this other person for the long haul, right? With no intention of ever separating the two of you. And certainly Saundra and I went into this marriage of ours with that attitude that, this is for the rest of our lives now. As long as we are both alive, we are married, right? And so it's fascinating to think that I think that's why I was thinking of Proverbs 18:22 is I think sometimes that gets lost in our culture. The idea of I'm choosing this person for the long haul. And this thought that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, is it possible that part of the problem we have sometimes is we start not viewing each other as a good thing? Because as we'll talk here a little bit in these few minutes together, it's not like this is always easy. And this is why we chose this topic, because it's easy to say, just stick together, just hitch your wagons and stick together. Well, yes. But that has a lot of caveats, a lot of details, a lot is involved. And I can say that with 36 years behind us in marriage, there's a lot that comes into play. But Proverbs does encourage us that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Proverbs 18:24, so just a couple verses down. It says, there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And again, I think in marriage, that's one of the things that I would say even plays in to marriage is you really want to be friends, not that you're always going to agree or always get along, but you want there to be not just the husband and wife relationship, but to actually like each other, actually be friends and so forth. So that's Proverbs 18:22 and Proverbs 18:24. And then in Proverbs 27:17, the concept is brought out that iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Now, I've used that verse, it's probably one you've heard, and I've used that verse before in teaching and even just thinking about my own life. And it's a beautiful thought, iron sharpens iron and one person sharpens another. But this is where I want to point out that we're talking about sticktuity. We're talking about sticking together as a husband and wife over the long haul. And I was thinking about this iron sharpens iron comment. I grew up on a farm, and so I saw in action the need to have metal implements involved, and oftentimes some of those were sharp. It could have been, say, on a cultivator. There's a tool that's going to be in the ground, and it's going to cut the weeds off right in the ground, or a machete or a hatchet. Any number of things that we might have used, knives in various situations and needs. We needed those to be sharp. Now, this isn't specifically iron sharpens iron, but I wanted to bring this out because I think it's a good analogy. We had grinding wheels, which is a stone wheel, if you don't know, that's actually attached to an electric motor in our case. I mean, it could be done in different ways, but usually I saw an electric motor attached to a grinding stone. We would then take that, you turn it on, that wheel gets to turning, and you would take that metal object and you would rub it against, that stone. So in this case, it was stone against iron. But what happened at that moment was that metal got sharpened. So I've watched this over the years. But you know what? I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, wow, so iron sharpens iron. So one person sharpens another. That process of taking metal and putting it against a stone. Oh, if you think about that in terms of a person with a person, that's kind of a painful looking process. So the idea that, I wanted to kind of bring out here right in the beginning is it's a beautiful and wonderful thing, marriage. And he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But if we're going to be good friends, we're going to be faithful and honorable to each other, then we're also going to sharpen each other. And that is a good thing, but it also can be a painful process. And actually, here, let me look at my notes just a minute, because I actually have some things on down here that I think will help. So let me jump just a little bit here. If we honor each other. So here was my thought. If we respect each other's viewpoints, if we respect that between us we have different desires and needs even, if we respect that, how I see fun is different than how Saundra sees it, if we respect dreams and goals and passions, it might not be that, in fact, it isn't, that Saundra, everything she wants to do in life, things that are a passion for her, things that are a priority, aren't necessarily for me. But I can still respect those things. So going back to this thought then about iron sharpens iron, I want to benefit her in those areas. But you know what? Some of those areas are also the things that drive me mad at times. And she could say the same thing. So I don't want to present some concept here that staying married over the long haul has to do with just getting along all the time or everything being smooth and easy. I almost think that we need things not to be smooth and easy at times, right? We want them to be, but it's almost like we need them not to be, because that sharpening each other, that benefiting each other in those ways is a big deal and is important. And that can kind of come with some pain. Man, there's a lot more there I could unpack, and I'll probably get into a little bit, but I just think that's a thought worth thinking on. That, is the goal to have everything just perfect and shiny and looking good? I think sometimes when people put on that image, that's when all of a sudden you find out, oh, they're in big trouble, because they've just tried to present a good image, and the reality is it's good to sharpen each other, and that can be kind of a painful thing. Because this isn't a long video, I don't want to just teach. I want to be real. I want to be awkward. It's a little harder without Saundra just sitting here, but it'll be fun to see how these individual videos work. Here's just a quick thought, and then I'm going to get real vulnerable after this. I'm going to make a quick thought, and then I'm going to get real vulnerable. First of all, love, just remember, is an emotion for sure, but it's also an act of the will. It's a choice. I just think that's critically important, and I didn't want to do this video and not make that point, that love is an emotion, but it's also a choice. And I really appreciate knowing this point, because here's where I get vulnerable. It's really nice to know that Saundra is there no matter what. Friends, I've got some great friends, and please, any friends that are watching this, don't be offended by these comments, but, friends can come and go for a variety of reasons. I mean, one of my good friends passed away, so he's not in my life day to day anymore. There are people that haven't passed away, but we're good friends for a while, but maybe, we're not so close anymore for whatever reasons. But Saundra's there, and I wrote these things down at my worst, at my greatest loss, at my weakness, when I fail. And by the way, I hate failing. So those are big moments for me. At emotional times, or at a physical low, or maybe a time when things are just confusing. Man, I tell you what, I want Saundra there in the good times too, of course. But it's just really nice to know that even in these low moments, I've been through the last few years have not been the easiest time in my life. Just in that, I've had a couple friends pass away for one thing, but also just have endeavored to make some transitions in life. Not bad stuff, just transitions in my work life. And I've even been learning a lot about myself, and therefore, wanting to maybe grow and maybe adjust some things in me. I love that part of the Christian journey, is there's always room for growth and learning, and it's just beautiful. It's wonderful. But it also could be painful. And I tell you what, just this morning I was thinking through this, and I was thinking, wow, there have been so many moments, certainly over 36 years, but even just in the last 5 years, there have been so many moments where I felt low. I felt uncertain. I felt like, just elements of confusion, or tapping into emotions that, were difficult or whatever. And who was always there was Saundra. Now, I will also tell you this, though. In the midst of this, in fact, this just happened a couple of days ago. And this will go back to that iron sharpens iron thought. As much as I love Saundra and appreciate her, she's also the one that can drive me the buggiest. And I suspect that she has complete freedom to say so. I'm sure that's vice versa, So it's interesting to me how, and I realize people blow specifically marriage relationships up, or other relationships up for a lot of different reasons. But I often think one of them might be just because you're disgruntled with each other, or don't even like each other very much at that moment, or you're just at a time where they're really challenging you for whatever reason. Wow, those are actually beautiful moments, right? If you think of it in terms of iron sharpens iron, I really do value. So I sometimes don't like it, but I do value when Saundra brings things up that are good for me to hear. And of course, I'm speaking specifically of things that they're good to hear, but they're not necessarily easy to hear. Does that make sense? I mean, if we were having a dialogue, I'm sure we could bounce this around even more, but I hope you'll think about this a little bit. That sometimes I think what we view, just to reinforce this a little bit, sometimes what we view as really negative and discouraging and difficult moments, particularly in a marriage relationship, if you'll let them be, and you'll look back probably and see this, if you'll let them be, they can be times of growth, times of maturing, and certainly times of getting to know each other as well, right? At different levels and in better ways. Saundra said to me just the other day, we think different. So this was hilarious. As I was making these notes this morning, I thought, I'm going to share with you that I've learned something. Something that I've learned is that, you know what? People are different from each other. And you're like, oh, come on. Of course we are. We're all really different, right? So when it comes to a marriage relationship, and by the way, I'm not just talking men versus women. Certainly, there are differences in a man versus a woman. But I'm even talking at a different level of just as humans, we're just built different, right? And of course, we look more like some humans and less like others, right? So my landmark epiphany, that people are different from each other, obviously isn't a landmark epiphany. It's just real, right? So I was thinking through this, and I thought, oh man, this is so interesting, because Saundra definitely sees things in a different way than I do a lot of the time. And I think it's good to major on the majors. For example, we both love Jesus. We both think he's amazing and appreciate him as our Savior and as our Lord. We don't differ on that, and that's really, really good. And there's other majors that I'm sure it's good to be the same on. But there are these things. There are different viewpoints. There are different desires and needs. I went through this a little bit earlier. There's different things that we see as fun. There's different dreams. There's different goals. There's different passions. And it's actually a beautiful thing to have that level of variety. So, the awkwardness of this is that something can be a really good thing, but it also can be very difficult to walk through at times. My encouragement, my challenge, my word to you today would be, don't end a relationship over something that could actually be beautiful. I think that is something to the concept of Sticktuity, the concept of staying together over the long haul in marriage is loving each other, honoring each other, yes, being good to each other, being kind, but even when those things aren't happening at their best, when you're actually maybe a little mean to each other, or you're really seeing things differently, or you're just at odds for whatever reasons. There could be a number of reasons. You're maybe just kind of at odds with each other. Listen, those are moments where growth can occur. You're going to move through them. You're going to come back around to moments of joy and even ecstasy and just beauty, right? So that ebb and flow happening, actually, that variety actually can be really good, right? So, I think it's easier for me maybe when I'm balancing these things around with Saundra in the same video. My hope is that I've made it clear. Listen, I love being married to Saundra, and I'm glad we have 36 years behind us. I'm glad we have years in front of us. But I just to be real, it's not always easy. We don't always agree. I don't always even like the relationship. Does that make sense? That I can love it and embrace it, and I'm not gonna walk out of it just because I don't like something at the moment. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it's something you can think through, that it's okay to go through those things, and we all do. And I think they're somewhat routine. I mean, none of us like the really difficult times or the period where maybe things are kind of just difficult for a couple of years or whatever. Those are not fun times, but just keep after it. Keep loving, keep encouraging, keep learning yourself and growing. I have to be honest and real that, there's some things that just are different about Saundra than me that, maybe rub me a little different. But a lot of the problems that I've had in our relationship are because I had a place where I could grow and learn, a place where I could mature and develop. And owning that, I just think is a really good thing. So I'm going to kind of wind us up here. But I want to drive home one more really, 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 I think, important point. And this might land with you in different ways, because as I was thinking through it, I thought, wow, this really could land with people in a variety of different ways. So just hear me on that, okay? But here's my statement. And I have this in bold, and I even have I have one of the words or two of the words in capital letters, because it is not, that's a capital lettered word, your job to fix each other. I just think that is somewhat an important thing to recognize in life in general. But as a husband and wife, it's not our job to fix each other. It is not my job to make Saundra what I think she needs to be. It is my job to love her first and foremost. And man, there's great scriptures on that, right? To love first and foremost. It is my job to support her. I want to support her. Do I always do a good job at it? No. In fact, recently I let her down, and that I made her, she felt some ways, and I can see why she felt how she did from my actions, right? I didn't support her well. So you own that, you learn from it, you make it right, or whatever needs to happen, but provide that support. Speak truth to each other. Absolutely. And sometimes that's a huge blessing, and sometimes, like I said earlier, it kind of hurts. But it helps us, right? Help each other see things in different ways, and therefore to grow, but also understand it's okay to see things in different ways. And then, as I started out, just don't fix each other. It's not your job. I think there's something to staying in marriage long term. It's powerful. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's complex. And I as I close this out, I do want to acknowledge, wow, this is, I just don't want this taken the wrong way. There are times marriages need to end. Divorce is not totally without merit. But I would say that there's probably the vast majority of times when marriages are ended by divorce. I'm not talking by a death, but by divorce, that they probably didn't have to, right? And some of these things that I've pointed out could be the key factors in just shifting something in a marriage. So I hope that you can take some of these things to heart. And I realize there's abusive situations and stuff that it's, gosh, I hate to ever say something's not redeemable, but there's situations that just a person shouldn't stay in. I just want to acknowledge that. But please hear me. Sticktuity, sticking with it, diving in, working through the hard stuff, enjoying the good stuff. It's all worth it. And, Saundra and I have a great marriage, but it is not perfect. We are not perfect people. And it's worth it, and it's good. And so I think I'm going to end with it there. I hope this is something you found value in and enjoyed. It's been a little awkward knowing Saundra's now going to watch this. And she may get to see this and then build hers. I don't know. Maybe I'll require that she not get to see this before she films hers. There's where it gets awkward, right? I don't want her to be hurt by anything I said or anything either, because she's a wonderful and beautiful person. But I tell you, this marriage thing, it's worth sticking in, but it's got its challenges, and that isn't like something new for anyone, right? That thought. So anyway, there you go. I hope it's been a blessing. Really appreciate you watching. And we'll be back with you again here with another episode of Awkward Conversations. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for watching Awkward Conversations. Please subscribe. Please like us, and please ring that bell so you get notifications. And you know what else? Tell people about these videos if you're enjoying them. Let people know, because listen, we're successful because of you.